Hi, my name is Barry, and wow, you can see a lot. We're going sans classes. So I decided in 2017, I had like a list of 17 things I wanted to do in 2017, and one of them was to do a YouTube channel. And I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do it about. But I decided, you know what? It is 12:27 on a Sunday morning, and I decided it's no time like the present. So I have been reading the Gunslinger by Stephen King. And because I saw that they were making a movie about Dark Tower, and I was like, oh, okay, like I want to read a book beforehand. So I get the first one, and I thought, okay, so the first movie is probably going to be about the first book. I've come to find out that actually isn't the case. If I'm wrong, please correct me if anyone actually is going to watch this. But from what I understand, it might be more like a sequel to like the 8 books. And I was like, that's a lot of reading. But what I decided to do is chronicle my reading of the Dark Tower series. I really wish I'd done this with Harry Potter, but oh well. So I decided every 100 pages I would give my kind of a summary and my responses as best as I could. So anyway, let's begin. So the first book starts with the gunslinger, and this is like one of the most well-known lines. I'd heard it forever, where I probably should have this page. Here we go. It's where the man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed, and that is like a really great entry point. I'm sold. I'm gonna buy this, but you don't find out until like way later the gunslinger's name. His name's actually Roland. But anyway, he's chasing after this guy, the man in black. And anyway, the gunslinger ends up going into this town. I think it's Tull. Honestly, I have fiction-induced narcolepsy, so about like 15, if I'm remotely tired, about 15 pages in, I'm going to be out. And I've definitely taken like 4 naps in the first 100 pages. I do like to read, though, I promise. Anyway, he ends up going to this town, and he meets this woman named Alice, and they call her Allie, and she's this bartender. Who is about to go through menopause, and she has this gnarly scar on her face, and anyway, they end up shacking up and have this good old time. But before he got there, the man in black had been there and resurrected this druggie from the dead. There's like this grass that grows in the desert, and it's like pot. Like if you burn it, you'll have like weird dreams, and I mean, just people like this guy was like chewing it and had like mossy green teeth, which was kind of cliche. Honestly, I was kind of surprised, but also like kind of a gross analogy. Stephen King had some really great imagery, so I'm gonna give that one to him. Like when he talks about the desert, it's not this sandy desert where he's like kind of sludging through like the sand. It's this like hard. This was called a hard pan desert where there's just no, like the wind has just stripped the whole soil, stripped the soil and sand. All you're left with is this like crusty blistered dirt, essentially. There's a really cool part where the gunslinger falls and the blood like drips down on the soil and like sucks it up greedily. It was actually really cool imagery. So I'll give him the mossy green teeth. Anyway, so the man in black comes and resurrects this man by like spitting on him, which I'm sure has some type of weird kind of religious Christ-like imagery thing going on, because Christ spitting on the dirt and mixing it and putting it on the guy's eyes and letting the guy see. I guess that's, I don't know. Anyway, oh yeah, there's also some really gross imagery about when the guy died. He like vomited green stuff, and it's like the vomit like came through the grill of this man's teeth. Not like a bling grill, but like missing teeth grill. Anyway, so he resurrects this guy, and he tells him the mystery of what happens after you die, because obviously the guy died. But he can only tell it if he's told the number 19. So he tells Allie that if she says 19 to this guy, he'll tell her the mystery of what happens after death. And he's like, you won't want to tell him, but you're going to say 19 to him at some point, and he's going to tell you, and you're going to wish that you never asked. kind of foreboding. Anyway, she does at one point. And anyway, but so the gunslinger, he's ready to leave town. Oh, before that, there's like a weird thing with this woman. She's like, she's rather large, but yet like the gunslinger is kind of like attracted to her. He talks about like sexual arousal. He talks about like her thunderous thighs, and she's like this lady preacher who has this like, it's kind of reminiscent of There Will Be Blood, where the pastor has like that charismatic scene with Daniel Day-Lewis, who's there. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but it kind of feels like that. Anyway, and the gunslinger's like, the devil is in her. Like the man in black has left a demon in her, and he eventually visits the woman on the edge of town and tries to like purge the demon from her, and does it in the weirdest way possible. He like spreads her thighs and like takes his gun and like rams it up into her lady parts. At least, okay, if I'm getting this wrong, please correct me. I'm really okay with it, but that's what it read like. I could have just been really tired. And then like the woman like kind of has this weird like shuddering moment, and then she kind of limps, and then it's just, I don't know. I was like, did the demon leave? I guess so. And then obviously the gunslinger leaves. And he's about to leave town with his mule. I think I felt really bad for the mule, honestly. And but there's like a town riot. I think the evil like preacher woman kind of stirs everyone up. And he ends up like having to fend off the entire town, and ends up like killing everyone in the town, including Allie. Because she said number 19 to the guy and beg the gunslinger to finally kill her. So he does. And then he leaves and he goes across the desert, and he meets up with this redheaded guy off this, I don't know, he lives just in the desert, and he has I was about to say a parrot, like a crow, kind of like in Game of Thrones. So, and anyway, they're there, they talk a little bit, and then he goes on his merry way. That guy almost felt like a vehicle to tell flashbacks. And I would love to ask Stephen King why he decided to do that. I hope that guy comes back so he's just not filler. Anyway, then he's wandered the desert longer, and he comes across this like stagecoach station where he meets this kid, Jake, who we find out is from New York City. And it's like two different worlds. So at this point, I'm wondering, how are the two worlds connected? I'm assuming that it has something to do with like if you die in one world, you pop up in the other, or I honestly have no idea. So I'm just throwing stuff out there. But anyway, this kid, it's actually from New York City, and he gets run over by a Cadillac. I just realized my mouth is like really lopsided. I'm like Greta Van Susteren. Anyway, I think is it on this side? Wow, I hope it's a shadow. Anyway, and so he meets this kid, Jake, who dies by having a Cadillac run over his abdomen, and like his guts like liquefy and squirt up into his throat. I mean, it's graphic, so prep yourself. And it's told in italics, at least in this edition. I assume in all the other editions. So I'm not exactly sure why. And it's not in first person, but it's in the present tense, when all the rest of the book up to this point has been past tense, or like past perfect, or I like grammar, but there's a limit to how much I love grammar. So anyway, but this one is told in not first person, third person present, and it's italicized, that's the first time it appeared here, so it's kind of jarring. Anyway, but he dies and ends up in this world and meets the gunslinger, and the gunslinger becomes actually really quickly attached to this kid. And before they leave to the station, he goes down in the basement to look for like canned goods, and they get some canned goods, and there's like a demon in the basement who speaks in the voice of Alice about how like as long as you are with this child, that essentially you are in the Man in Black's back pocket, which I'm interested to figure out what that will entail. But anyway, that is the first. Actually, I think I went a little further than the first 100 pages, maybe first 105. But anyway, that's the first 105 pages, and kind of my reactions. I've liked it thus far. it was a little rough at the beginning, but I mean, man, when the blood starts going, wow. So I'll be interested to see how much I like the rest of the book. And this is the thing. If I really just don't love these books, I'm not going to torture myself. I did that with Dracula, and it was awful. My parents still make fun of me for it. I was like, I'm almost done. I said that for like maybe 2 weeks because it was. I love Frankenstein. I think it's great. Dracula, I'm sorry, no one is that verbose when it comes to diary entries. At least I'm not. So anyway, if I really don't like the series, I'm not going to continue. So if you're like, I don't know who's going to watch this or not, it's probably more for me. But if you're disappointed that I stopped, like, I'm so sorry in advance. Anyway, but have a nice night.